Okay, so let's proceed from what we have left it off. Left off yesterday. As I have said, yesterday we tried to define what morphology is. We said it is the study of parts of the word and the meaning associated to those parts of the word. And the meaning associated with that part of the word might be lexical, which means you can find the meaning in the dictionary, or the role might be linguistic, or it might have a grammatical function, which means either to make it progressive or to indicate possession or to mark the subject or to make it plural or negative or whatever. And we have seen that there are two types of morphemes. One is free and the other one is bound morpheme. If it is free morpheme, it means it can stand by itself and it has a meaning of itself. If it is a bound morpheme, most of the time bound morphemes would have a linguistic function rather than lexical meaning, and they cannot stand alone, or they have to be attached to some free morpheme to be meaningful. Then after that, we have seen three basic kind of word formation methods that we have in many languages. The first one is affixation, which means attaching a morpheme to a lexical item or a lexical term, where the attachment can be before the lexical term, which we call it prefix, or after the lexical term, we call it suffix, or it can appear in both sides simultaneously, and in that case, we call it a circumfix, or it might be inserted in the middle of the lexical item. In that case, we call it an infix. So we said affixation can have four different types: prefix, suffix, infix, and circumfix. The other word formation is compounding, which means free morphemes can be combined to create another word. Like in Amharic, we have beta mesaft, which is a combination of beta and mesahav, and we have many such kind of cases in English and in many other languages. The third word formation technique that we have seen is reduplication, which means either we are going to repeat the whole form or part of the form to create another version, sometimes to make it, definitive, sometimes to make it plural, sometimes to show some action is being done repetitively. So we have seen this many things in the first class of this chapter. Now, the other issue that we are going to discuss today is to distinguish between derivational and inflectional morpheme or morphology. Mind you, morphology is a study of parts of a word. And those parts of the word, or the morphemes that will be attached to the main word, would have an impact, would have some kind of change on the word. Some of them would change the number marker. Some of them will make it singular, some of them will make it plural. Some of the morphemes will make it negative, the others will make it positive. Some of them will make it plural, the other indicate the subject, or the other would indicate the object. But whenever this happens, sometimes those morphemes might also force the part of speech of the word to change. Some of the morphemes might change it from noun to a verb, or sometimes an adjective would be changed to a noun. So morphemes might also contribute to the change of the word class of the lexical term. So when we say derivational morpheme, mind you, when we say derivational morpheme, morpheme is an attachment, right? We know that morpheme is part of a word. So for that morpheme to be called derivational, we know that the morpheme would derive a new word by changing the meaning, which means it will alter, or it will alter the meaning. At the same time, it would also change the word class, which means it might change it from verb to noun, or from noun to adjective, or from whatever. But if a morpheme affects the meaning in the part of speech of a word, then we call that morpheme derivational. Otherwise, if it changes only the meaning, but not the part of speech, then we call that inflectional morpheme. Mind you, morpheme is part of a word. Okay, but if that morpheme changes the meaning at the same time the part of speech or the word class, we call it derivational. If it changes only the meaning, then we'll call it inflectional morpheme or inflectional morphology. So I have a very simple example in here. As you can see, the word happy is, an English word, which, indicates, or the meaning is showing some level of excitement or being in a state of happy. So this is happy. Now, whenever you add the morpheme and to it, it would be unhappy. But in this case, the part of speech didn't change, okay? Both words are adjective. Whether it is happy or unhappy, it is an adjective that's used to quantify something. Like you can say, a happy boy. You can also say unhappy boy. Still, the word happy or unhappy are trying to quantify or trying to express the state of being for the noun, which is a boy in this case. So as you can see, the meaning has changed from being positive to negative, but the part of speech is still an adjective. So we say an is an inflectional morpheme because it only affects the meaning, but not the part of speech. The other example that we have is the derivational. If you see the word quick, you can add NESS to this word. So as you can see, the affix or the affix NESS change both the meaning and the word class because it changed the adjective to a noun. Mind you, quick is an adjective, okay? Whenever you add ness to it, it would be a noun. So in this case, we say the morpheme NESS is a derivational morpheme because it changed the meaning at the same time it changed the part of speech of the word. This is the distinction between derivational and inflectional morpheme. So if it is derivational, it would alter or change the meaning and the word class. If it is inflectional, it would only change the meaning. It doesn't change the part of speech. So for example, if a morpheme is inflectional, then in each of the cases, if it was initially a verb, then it keeps on being a verb all the way through. In that case, we say it is an inflectional morphology. If it is derivational, then it might change the verb into a noun or an adjective into a noun or whatever. Whenever it makes such kind of a change, then we call it a derivational morpheme, okay? Saying this, let's have a look at this one. If you see the Amharic morphemes, ku, shi, achu, a, and the like, they affect the meaning, but they will never change the word class. If you see this word, sabbar, you can say sabbar, it means I am the one who is doing the action. Sabbarsh, it means second person feminine. Sabbarachu, it means second person plural. As sabbarachu, then it means second person plural with a causative. እናንተ ናችሁ ያስደረጋችሁት ለማለት አን ከፊት ጨምረናል። as sabbarachu ስላለን ማለት ነው። So as you can see in here, in all the cases, the words are verbs. Sabbarku, sabbarsh, sabbarachu, asabbarachu, all of them are verbs. So it means the meaning has changed somehow because the meaning of sabbarku and sabbarsh are quite different. እኔ ሰበርኩ፣ አንቺ ሰበርሽ፣ እናንተ ሰበራችሁ፣ እናንተ አሰበራችሁ ስንል all of them are, having some change in a meaning because the subject has changed, the causative has changed. But still the part of speech is a verb. So since the part of speech didn't change, we say ku, she, achu, and a as a suffix are inflectional morphemes. For instance, in Amharic, we have one, derivational morpheme. If you remember, we talked about infixes. Infixes means verb. What we call infixes are vowels that would be inserted within the consonant. Lamsale, if you see the word sabari, as you can see, s, b, re are the roots. The main source of the meaning are the three consonants. Now, within these two, if we add the vowel e and the vowel a, then it will make it to be a noun because sabbara is an action. Sabari sanalis. It is a noun. It is a name of something. So adding e and a in the middle of SBR would change the verb into a noun. What if we add in here? እንደዚህ ማለት ነው። እንደዚህ ቢሆንስ? It is sabara. Sabara is an action of breaking. So it is a verb. This one is a verb. But if it is sabari, then this will be sabari, then this means it's a noun. Okay, so what we say is the only change that we have made is mainly on the vowels to be inserted in the middle. So we say this is a derivational morphology. It changes the meaning at the same time, the part of speech or the word class for this word. So this is the main distinction between derivational and inflectional morphology. In addition to that, in doing this morphology, some languages distinguish between roots and the stem. Most of the time, in many languages, roots and the stem are the same. Most of the time, for example, if you see an English language, English words, the stem and the roots are the same. When it comes to a stem means it is the lexical term after removing all prefixes and suffixes from a word. Whenever you remove everything from it, we call it, it is a stem. Let's take one simple example. If you have a word called, let's say, unhappy, if you have this one, then you know that an is a morpheme, then you have happy. As you can see, an is a bound morpheme. So if you remove that, you are going to be left with the word happy, okay? So we call this one a stem. But as I said in English, a stem and the roots are the same. What if you have words like, let's say, walking, business. In this case, you'll say it is walk plus ing. Then you can say if you remove the bound morpheme, you are going to be left with only the word walk, which means now walk is a stem, which means you cannot further, decompose it. You cannot further, split it or segment it into smaller pieces. That's what we call is a stem. In some language, like most Semitic language, we have another, detailed analysis of the stem. And that's what we call is a root. For instance, let's take the Amharic word, sabbarkum የሚለውን እንውሰድ. So if you write it using the Latin script, it would be sabbarku ይሆናል. And if you try to detach the morpheme or the bound morpheme, it's going to be sabbar plus ku, because we know that ku is a subject marker that we have. ኩን በሌላ ብንቀይረው ሽ ህ ብንለው ሰበርክ ሰበርሽ ሰበሩ ሰበራችሁ እያለ ሄዳል. So ሰበር is a main word. Okay, in this main word you are going to attach many prefixes and suffixes to give it many meaning. So we call sabbar to be a stem. So sabbar is a stem, which means it is the main source of the meaning. But in Semitic language, you can actually further decompose a stem, which means you can decompose it in such a way, SBR plus EE. As you can see, you can separate the vowels with the consonant. But when you do that, you have to tell us how they are going to be recombined. And you can say it is combined using such a pattern, which means a consonant followed by a vowel, a consonant followed by a vowel, then finally a consonant. For instance, what if I have a future tense? ለምሳሌ ስበሪ ብል ስበሪ ብዬ ብጽፍ. So mind you, E is the feminine marker because ለሰው ከሆነ ለወንድ ከሆነ ስበር ለእሷ ከሆነ ትስበር ይስበሩ ነው የምንለው. So SBER is the stem. በአማርኛ የምንጻፈው ብንል using that script it would be ስበሪ ነው የምንለው. Okay, የቅድሙ ላይ ምንድን ነው የሚለው ሰበር አይደለም የሚለው. As you can see, it is ሰበ. In this case, s and b. So as you can see, the first one is the saddest or the fifth order consonant እንደምንለው ማለት ነው. That's why we simply say s. Then here it will be be. Be is b. Then you are going to have r with the feminine marker I. So in this case, the format is going to be, okay, it's going to be SBR plus E. Let's put it a little bit higher here. It's going to be SVR plus E, but you are going to combine it using consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant pattern. So in this case, it would be S, then B, then E, then R. So in this case, it is showing, another version of, or another meaning for the word. Severi, sever, severu, severu. I mean, severi, severu, sever, ስለሰበር እያለን no, ስለሰበር I'm sorry. It is the action of, that is going to happen in the future. Severi, severu, or sever, እንስበር እያለን ሊሄድ ይችላል ማለት ነው. So in this case, we can distinguish the stem from the root. So as I said, SVER, we can call this is a stem. But when you extract only the vowels, I mean the consonant, SVR, we call this one a root. And as you can see, for all of these words, whether it is sabbar, sabari, severi, severu, for all of them, the main word is SVR, which is the action of breaking. So we can distinguish a root from a stem. In Semitic language, the stem is the consonant with the vowel, whereas the root is only after extracting the consonant. So it depends on the language that you study. Some of them might have a root, some of them might not have a root. But this is a distinction between roots and the stem. So root is generally the principal carrier of the lexical meaning of the word, while affixes generally carry grammatical meaning. Affixes are those that are going to be attached to the stem or to the root. So whenever they are attached, they are showing some grammatical function or grammatical meaning. Some of them will make it plural, some of them will make it continuous, some of them will make it negative. So for example, in the word cats, we know that the root is cat, which has a basic meaning from a dictionary, and S is a grammatical feature that shows the plurality or the number, okay? This is the main distinction between a stem and a root. Now, saying this much about morphology, whenever you want to work on morphology, you have to focus on the kind of computational system that you use for text processing, okay? So morphology is a study of a word, which means words are going to be written using symbols. So if you want to identify, for example, affixes, if you want to identify the root, the stem, or anything, what you have to do is process that text. And to process that text, you have to have some knowledge of a computational tasks. You have to know how texts are processed. So as we said, every NLP application needs text processing, okay? Whether it is tagging, whether it is stemming, whether it is even translation, or syntax or semantics or grammar, each of them require some level of text processing. So for example, you are required to segment or tokenize words in a running text. Like for example, if I give you this one, how many words do you have in here? How many words do you have in here? Mavreed.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mavreed. Mavreed.
Yes.
How many words do you have in this text, the one that I have circled with red?
14. 1, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9.
14.
How do you separate these two? Why do you put them as two words? Because there is no space between them, right?
Because of this, the character between them.
በዚህ ምክንያት አይደለ? So it means you use some knowledge, አይደለ? You use some knowledge to segment, words in a running text. So this is a computational task. Mind you, it seems very simple, but we'll see that it is challenging. The other issue is you might be required to normalize words, okay? Normalize words means to bring them to the same standard. Now, what is the difference between this? What is the difference between this? What is the difference between these words?
alphabet way.
No.
Capital small.
For the computer, they are quite different, I don't know.
Yeah.
But each of them are having THE. Mind you, I've been a little bit, you know, I'm giving you the worst case, but most of the time we have these differences. But all of them are having THE, or they might mean the word the. So unless and otherwise you have some kind of normalization, then your statistical method would not have a complete information. What about this? What are the difference between these words? All of them are to mean nation, I don't know.
Yeah.
So if you don't bring them to the same standard, then your model might not learn as, you know, it should. So these are very important things. So normalizing a word format is a pre-processing text. Segmenting a sentence in a running text is a challenge. We'll see it later on. But whenever you try to do such kind of things, writing a trivial string manipulation program will not be efficient. It won't be economical. It won't be economical because you are going to have a huge collection of data. And doing that using a very simplistic, what we call a very simplistic string manipulation program is not going to make it to be, you know, efficient. So you have to be very careful about that. Okay, so what we have to do is try to come up with an efficient way of manipulating a text. So performing these tasks require a robust text processing module. And that text processing module, we call it regular expression. How many of you have used regular expression so far?
I think nobody of us are using regular expression, especially when we speaking.
Haven't you done Java programming or Python programming where regular expression is used?
Yes.
Have you done that?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Especially plus, minus.
Yes, that's right. So this is the issue. Regular expression is a formal language, and it's used to, you know, to specify or to determine how a string is going to be manipulated, or a string is going to be searched, or a string is going to be matched. For instance, as you can see, if you see all these words, they mean the same thing. They are referring to the concept of database, but they are written in different ways. So since the computer is using encoding, none of them would be equivalent for the computer. We know that each of them are different from one another because the computer uses the encoding method. And we know that the encoding method would say, as long as the internal coding is different, the computer will say these are not the same. And the same is true for the previous example that I have given you in Amharic. So the idea is a regular expression is a very powerful string manipulation tool. And basically, as I said, it exists in many programming languages. As I said, it exists in many programming languages, but the most commonly used, you know, expressions or the most commonly used functions in a regular expression is search, match, sub, and split. Searching is to look for a substring in the whole text, whereas match is to look for a substring starting from the first character. This is the main difference between search and match. Match will always look starting from the beginning, whereas search look for it anywhere in the text. Sub is used to replace, especially whenever you want to do normalization, then substitution or sub is the most commonly used regular expression. Then we can also use a split whenever you want to segment or decompose a larger text into a smaller one. And these are some of the expressions that you have to keep in mind. Most of the time, we do search a whole string. So in that case, if you put it with a double quotation, and if you put the string within it, it means look for it as it is. In the text, it is looking for the word test as it appears here, PEST ነው የሚፈልገው ማለት ነው። So whenever you put it in a quotation, it means look for it. If you put it in a square bracket, you have to notice the syntax, okay? If you put it in a square bracket, it means any one of those elements in the list ማለት ነው. So if you put it in a square bracket as ABC, it means look for either A or B or C ማለት ነው. In this case, ABC is not one string. Rather, each of them are taken as independent element ማለት ነው. And whenever you need an exclusive list, then you are going to add within the square bracket, try to add the caret. Whenever you put the caret, it means anything except this. So for instance, if I have this, what does it mean? Does it mean? Indivisible. What does it mean?
ከዚህ ከተጻፉት ከ13 57 9 ውጪ ሌሎቹ ትክክል ይሆናሉ ማለት
13 ሳይሆን ከ1 ከ3 ከ5 ከ7 እና ከ9 ውጪ mind you, you cannot take them together. Except these 5 elements, anything else ማለት ነው. So for this, if I give you ለምሳሌ the word አበበ, this would be correct. If I give you like A, B, 3, H7 6 U ብላችሁ, what would be the answer based on this regular expression? What would be the result?
A B H
A
6U
B
P
H
6U
6 and U would be the answer ማለት ነው. Because I'm looking for anything except this ስላለን ማለት ነው. So mind you, don't forget the square bracket and the list that we are going to put in here. So if you say caret ABC, it means anything except ABC would be a correct answer for this. So mind you, Python and modern programming languages are equipped with such kind of regular expression, which makes it very powerful. The other one is a dot. If you simply put a dot, it means any single string, okay? It means any single string, which means 3 would be correct, J would be correct, let's say, 3 would be correct, again, G would be correct, then hash would be correct, at would be correct, ampersand would be correct, anything, but mind you, it has to be a single character. That's what it means. So a dot means any single character. The other one is a plus sign, a bracket. A bracket, a curved bracket means ABC as one string ማለት ነው. Mind you, previously ምን አይተናል? Previously we have seen this, right? We have seen if you put it in a square bracket, it means any one of the elements within the bracket. This is a square bracket. But if you put it in a curved bracket, it means ABC as one string. Okay? So if you put it like this one, like if you have a regular expression of, let's say, SDS, እንደዚህ ባስቀመጥ, it means it looks for the string SDS in the subtext. So you might have እንደዚህ ብላችሁ ብትሰጡት ምን ያወጣል ማለት ነው? It starts from this one, it doesn't match, this doesn't match, this doesn't match, this doesn't match. እዚህ ጋር ሲደርስ ኤስን አገኘ፣ ዲን አገኘ፣ ኤስን አገኘ። So SDS would be an output. ይቀጥላል H E V ልና SD ለምሳሌ ይሄን እናጥፋው A እንበለው። So S ሲል it says it's correct, D ሲል it's correct, A ጋር ሲደርስ ፌል አደረገ። What it expects is SDS ነው ግን ይሄ SDA ነው። ስለዚህ it will not consider it at all ማለት ነው። SDን ስላገኘ it won't say it is correct. ስለዚህ ይሄን ይዝና ይቀጥላል ማለት ነው። So it means the element as one string ነው የሚያየው if you put it in a curved bracket. If you put it, if you have a bar between this, it means either of these two. It cannot be both. Okay, it cannot be both. Either of these two ማለት ነው. So if you have this and that, it would be either this or the string that. If you have this and that, then this would be wrong because it is a choice between the two. Pay attention to the notations. The other one is, the first session is over. Let us restart and go through it again, okay? Make sure to join.